Hey guys, welcome back. This is the story of what if Deku was raised by Nezu. Copyright disclaimer, I do not own this fanfiction in any way possible. Information about the author and this fanfic is in the description. Now without further ado, let's start the story. Nedzu was so done with humans, maybe not all of them, just the really annoying ones. It hadn't been that long since Nedzu had adopted little Izuku into his personal life. He enlisted his students Yamada Hizashi and Aizawa Shoyuta to help with figuring out how to become a good parent for the small child. After successfully filling out the official paperwork and dealing with the social workers directly, he officially had Izuku as his son. It did take some convincing, but Izuku was now his to call his own. Detective Tsukachi, who he put in charge of finding the father and convicting him of child abandonment, called him only a few days after he took Izuku under his wing to tell him that the father had come willingly to prison. Everything was going great, he even got more things for Izuku to play with. Speaking of Izuku, he personally cleaned out his guest room, which was easy because no one ever volunteered to go over to his place. So, he took the empty room and made it Izuku's room. He placed a new crib that was white with intricate flowers engraved into the wood against the wall closest to the door. The empty dresser was filled to the brim with onesies, diapers, socks, blankets, shoes, shirts, pants, and some animal-themed hooded towels he recently brought home. Nedzu had a changing station with a trash can right next to it for easy disposal. The play area consisted of fluffy circle rugs with many soft stuffed animals thrown about. He had a stationary jumper and an activity gym for when he grows a little bigger in the corner. But his favorite addition was the rocking cradle that was soft ivory with a plush inside that he used to rock Izuku to sleep. Nedzu knew what it was like to feel alone and abandoned by humans, so he made a vow to never let that happen again. He created a school for everyone to be safe, and now he had a baby who deserves the love and care that he wasn't shown. Same with his office, he still had the first crib he bought right next to his desk to keep an eye on Izuku while he slept while Nedzu went over his work. He had a few changes of clothes and diapers in his office in case there was an accident. He had a soft rug placed down on his hardwood office floor to allow Izuku to roam free. Of course, he baby-proofed the whole room first. He also had a multitude of pillows, blankets, and stuffed animals around to keep his office from being too boring for Izuku. In short, Nedzu was a proud dad. That is, until the students somehow heard Izuku's cries of laughter outside his office and automatically went to gossip about how Nedzu had a child now. Safe to say, if he ever found the specific person who did it, there would be hell to pay for unintentionally putting his innocent child in danger. Speaking of students, he had to tell them he now has a child, so they could finally let it go. Nedzu planned a short assembly indoors so that the whole school could attend. "Hey, Shoyuta!" Yamada Whisper yelled to his dark-haired friend who was resting his head on his desk. "What do you think Nedzu will do about the whole rumor thing? Now everyone knows about the kid." "Lower your voice, Hizashi, or else everyone will know it's not a rumor," Aizawa said, looking up to his friend from his desk. "Nedzu will probably just announce it so that the rumor can go away and he can go back to being in silent peace." Like Aizawa wished he had right now, but ever since the rumor started, everyone had been buzzing with whispers throughout the day. "Hey, guys!" The two friends looked over at their friend Ida Tensei as he walked over to them with his lunch bento wrapped up in a light blue bowl. He sat down near them before continuing on. "Everyone's been going on about just a rumor. I honestly don't care about rumors and only wait for the truth. Oh please. We all know that if it is true, you would want the first look at the little munchkin, Ida." The three looked over to see their friend Namuri Kayama. She pranced up to them with her long black hair coming down in beach waves. "I wouldn't mind taking a look at his baby if he has one, but everyone is going crazy over a stupid rumor. Geez, even if it is true, they don't have to talk about how Nedzu would be a bad dad. Personally, he wouldn't be bad, but maybe just very protective." She shook her head before sitting down near them with her own purple bento. Aizawa and Yamada didn't really want to tell their friends about the baby without Nedzu's permission. Knowing them, they would declare themselves the honorary aunt and uncle of the baby even if they haven't even met him yet. Just when Aizawa was thinking about what to do about the situation, the intercom came on. "Oh no," Aizawa and Yamada thought at the same time while their friends and the rest of their classmates looked confused. "Attention all students and teachers, report to the inside gymnasium for a special announcement regarding some news I have." "Oh hell," Aizawa thought as Nedzu's voice continued on through the speaker. "Please start from the upperclassmen down to the freshmen in a calm and orderly manner." Namuri looked very interested in the announcement. "Oh ho, What if he is about to lay a smackdown on the kid who started the rumor? Tensei shook his head as they gathered with their class walking toward the gym. I doubt that. I don't think the principal would do such a thing over a rumor. It's more within his power to unleash his anger toward that student when the teachers go against the student in those battles. They all shivered as they remembered how Nedzu gets when he unleashes high specs. Within 10 minutes, all the classes were gathered in the school gymnasium waiting for whatever the principal had to tell them. They honestly didn't know if this was just a normal school assembly that just wasn't scheduled or an abnormal meeting that was about to rock their whole world. And apparently, it was the latter when Nedzu showed up with tea in one hand and a baby cradled against him in the other. Needless to say, everyone freaked out. Attention students! It has come to my attention that a rumor has spread about me having a child in my office. I don't really know why you would think I would kidnap a child, but I will let you know that I would do no such thing. I found this baby and I have adopted him as my own. He was abandoned just outside the school gates a week ago. I took it upon myself to raise him as my own, and I will have no tolerance towards any behavior of this sort any longer. If you have any suspicion towards me and how I raise my child, say it to my face instead of gossiping behind the closed office door. If you have any problem with that, speak now. Nedzu said this with no trace of a pleasant smile present on his face as Izuku looked up at him with curious eyes. Izuku was wearing a blue onesie with a light brown baby deer that was smelling a pink rose. His little feet were covered by white socks which were embroidered with pink cherry blossoms. In his little hands, he held a small light brown teddy bear that's left ear was currently being chewed on lightly. God! Nedzu looked like one of the moms you would see at a PTA meeting, Aizawa thought as Yamada looked on with a smile. Tensei and Namiri looked ready to claim their honorary aunt and uncle titles as soon as Nedzu stopped talking. Will there be any further questions on how I raise my son? Nedzu looked on towards the silent crowd. Great, there will be no issues then. Nedzu continued, if there is any further drama or gossip about my skills in parenthood, don't think I will extend any mercy towards you just because you are my student. Punishment is not that far out of reach since my school is meant to be a safe place free of discrimination. Nedzu ended with a sadistic smile. I believe there will be no further problems, yes? The resounding yes from the crowd of students was so loud Nedzu plugged Izuku's ears ahead of time. Nedzu sipped his tea as he spoke from the podium. This issue of gossiping brings up a real topic regarding the offspring of pro heroes. I will see to it personally that everyone becomes more educated on this topic with your teachers to help you understand the importance, Nedzu added. The mic from the podium picked up on Izuku's soft sounds as he played with the teddy bear in his hands while Nedzu took another long sip of his tea. Nedzu smiled at the gathered crowd before ending with, you are all dismissed to your classrooms now. Except for you, Yukimura. The student in question, who some remembered as the one who spread the rumor, trembled in his seat. Do stay behind, would you? I need to talk to you personally about the 10-page essay you will write about the importance of the truth and how lies can spread into something more heinous. An easy assignment compared to the other punishments than I had in mind. You are lucky that I am letting you off easy this time. Never do something like this again unless you want to face harsher punishment. Nedzu said, smiling as he felt Izuku giggling from his perch against the young principal's chest. Izuku wiggled his stuffed animal in his hand before taking the other ear into his mouth. Most students said a quick prayer for Yukimura while the quartet of friends just shook their heads at him. Geez, he is a second-year student too. You would think he'd know better than to go toe-to-toe against Nedzu. Tensei said offhandedly as they all walked back to their classroom. TCH, serves him right. He shouldn't have done it in the first place, Aizawa stated as he internally sighed in relief that Tensei and Namiri didn't find out about the connection between him and Yamada already acting like his godparents. I wouldn't want to be him right now. And hey, I was right about him laying a smackdown on the kid who started the whole thing. Namiri said proudly before a fond smile crossed her face, and that baby was so cute. I wonder if Nedzu will allow us to bring gifts for the little boy. Yeah. I wouldn't be against giving the little fella a few more stuffed animals. Tensei commented. The other three knew that since his little brother was born, he had been dying to let loose his big brother instincts. And since there is a new baby in town, he would pull out all the stops. The day after the assembly, things were pretty much back to normal. Except for Yukimura, who looked thoroughly awake and asleep at the same time while carrying a multitude of books from the public library from class to class. And as always, Aizawa and Yamada were in the middle of math when there was a knock on the door. They both slowly stopped their writing to look at the door. Tensei and Nemuri paused in their work as well as the whole class turned to look at the door. The door opened to show Nedzu with a baby swaddled in a hands-free scarf attached to the principal's front and car keys in his hand. I need to enlist the help of Aizawa and Yamada on an emergency trip regarding Izuku since I have designated them as the godparents, Nedzu said as Izuku looked around at the scenery of the classroom. What? The whole class shouted, but the most significant was Nemuri and Tensei. Aizawa and Yamada looked at each other inside before following their principal out of the school building. The two looked thoroughly confused with what was happening as their principal led them to his car, which was styled after one of the earlier models of a Volkswagen Beetle. Principal Nedzu, where exactly are we going? Yamada asked carefully as the principal climbed up into the car to help buckle Izuku into his dark green car seat in the back seat. The principal only smiled at him before shutting the car door behind him and maneuvering on top of the center console to get to his own spot in the driver's seat. He adjusted the seat to bring him closer to the pedals, made sure his mirrors were in order and made sure Izuku was safe in the back. He rolled down the passenger window slowly to face his two students with the only answer that makes sense in this situation. Nedzu only smiled happily as he called out, "Get in, losers. We're going shopping." Nedzu was fine with no sleep. Yeah, nothing wrong with losing a little sleep, especially when it was because of Izuku. There was no harm in staying awake another hour or two rocking him to sleep in his cradle. No biggie with reading a bedtime story when Izuku wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Surely, no foul in him constantly worrying about Izuku getting hurt because he was in his crawling stage and wanted to headbutt at everything he saw. Nope. It's no problem that this has been going on for a few days. No problem at all, Nedzu thought as he looked down at Izuku in the floor crib in his office. He was wearing an old-school superhero-themed onesie with a soft cape attached to it with green and white being its main colors. It took so long for Izuku to tire himself out enough to go to sleep. First off, Izuku woke up crying in the middle of the early morning, which was easily fixed by a quick bottle of warm milk and some walking around while patting his back until he burped. Nedzu woke up again to his alarm, which caused him to wake up Izuku when he was immediately greeted with a smile and the smell of death coming from his diaper. After the diaper change, he got his work suitcase and Izuku's baby bag ready before he was greeted by a wail from Izuku. He looked down to see Izuku trying to clutch his head from the small pain he experienced from bumping his forehead into the only not baby-proofed spot in his house. He swooped down to take the crying child in his arms while bouncing him slightly, shushing him quietly while rubbing his back with his other hand. From that fiasco onto the next, when he was halfway to work when he realized he left not only Izuku's favorite toy that he couldn't possibly fall asleep without, but also his paperwork that he finished from last night. Nedzu had to drive all the way back, pick up the items, and then wiggle back into the driver's seat before heading double time to UA. Which reminds him of the apology letter he needs to write to that poor electrician who was having just a lovely day before Nedzu stormed into him. Safe to say, he might need to send some compensation from the utter scare he caused the worker to experience. And Nedzu would think that at least at work, he would be safe. Ha 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 ha. Oh, how the universe really hated him sometimes. Nedzu had to deal with a supposed gas leak that needed to be fixed fast, only for the professionals to show up and say it was just overheated water that somehow intersected with the garbage disposal smell. Which made their pay doubled because they were only supposed to fix a leak, not fix up a whole system of pipes. And then he had to deal with the electric company calling about how he apparently traumatized one of their workers. He talked down their whole lawsuit thing pretty quickly, but that meant he really needed to put compensation in his apology letter to pay for a few therapy lessons. Then he had to go through paperwork, which was always so fun to deal with. Then, for a moment there was peace and calm in his office for once in the past 4 hours since he woke up from his nearly non-existent sleep. For a split second, he thought, hey, this is nice. He was instantly shocked out of that thought since he saw Izuku heading toward the bookshelf. Which would have been fine until he realized the snow globe he bought while he was on one of his very few vacations was a little too close to the edge. He rushed over as soon as Izuku slightly bumped into it. Good news, he caught the globe. Bad news, Izuku was crying again. Nedzu bit back his inner turmoil into a smile as he picked up Izuku and settled him down. This incident caused him to completely stop his work to watch as Izuku literally avoided every single safe space he saw and headed toward any dangerous spots he could reach. He was like a danger magnet. 2 hours later, Izuku finally went to sleep after eating his applesauce. Lunchtime, Nedzu thought as he remembered the students in the school and looked down at the papers before him with sad eyes. He turned his attention back to his self-bought #1 dad cup. I wish I knew how to quit you, Nedzu lamented to his teacup containing his 5th cup of caffeinated Earl Grey, which he quickly chugged before continuing with his endless amount of paperwork. He peeked over at Izuku's sleeping form, silently wishing for him to stay just like that for a while. I still can't believe Nedzu took you guys shopping in the middle of class, Namiri pouted as she picked at some pork with her chopsticks. It was less shopping with us, and more using us as help to shop for Izuku, Hisashi said. It was more of us reaching the places he couldn't get to than anything else, Hisashi thought to himself. The shopping trip itself was eventful, especially when everyone saw 2 high school students with their principal carrying a baby across his chest as he dragged the 2 towards the baby section. He took some of their advice while picking certain foods and drinks that were helpful toward a baby's growth. But of course, when they arrived back in time for lunch, their 2 other friends took one look at them and started to hammer them with questions, which made Hisashi pull one of the oldest tricks in the book. Hisashi pointed behind them, said, "Hey, what's over there?" Before taking off with such speed even Tensei couldn't stand a chance. Well, he technically could chase after him, but they had Aizawa with them, which was all they really needed to begin their interrogation. "How long have you known?" Namuri asked. "The same day he found him," Aizawa responded. "How come you didn't tell us?" Tensei followed up. "It was a secret between the principal and us. If we would have told you, all 4 of us would probably have the same punishment that Yukishima had to go through," Aizawa said with his dark eyes looking more bored with every word. Nemurk questioned, "How do we get on this? Why do you want to?" Aizawa asked. "Why wouldn't we?" Tensei answered. "Look, I'm a great older brother to Tenya, so I can definitely help out the most with how to take care of kids like Izuku because he is around the same age as Tenya. I'm sure that I can help out. I will do it in any way that I can." Aizawa looked to Namuri to find out her answer. "I always wanted to spoil a kid and be the cool aunt. And Izuku looks like he deserves to be spoiled, especially by the most awesome aunt that he could ever have." At the end of their little interrogation, they decided amongst themselves to try to convince Nedzu to make them the honorary aunt and uncle. So here the 2 were, having sneaked up to his office after they finished their lunch. "So what do we do to convince him to make us part of the family?" Tensei quietly asked Namuri as they both walked toward the office door. "I don't really know. I'm hoping he could just give us babysitter privileges, and at least allow us to give him a few gifts. And then sooner or later we will be the cool influences on him," Namuri answered before reaching out to knock. "I know it's you too, come on in," Nedzu answered, but he sounded tired. The 2 looked at each other before opening the door to his office, only to gape at the utter mess on the floor. A pile of books that looked like they fell from the bookshelf to the ground, and stuffed animals were strewn all over the room. Izuku was babbling from his crib. All the while their principal had his head down in his arms sitting at his office desk. "What brings you 2 here?" Nedzu said with his head still resting within his paws. Izuku gurgled a happy greeting from his crib as his limbs flailed a little bit towards them. Shocked, Tensei cleared his throat. "Well, we were both wondering if you would consider us being an aunt and uncle to Izuku. We don't even have to have that certain title," Namiri continued on. "We just want to give him little gifts and maybe babysit once in a while if you are willing." Nedzu lifted his head. "Why would I let you sit on Izuku? No. Babysit just means watching over a baby while the parent goes away for some time," Tensei explained, fearing what Nedzu would do. Nedzu lifted his head full from his paws and looked at Izuku. He looked back at his student. "If I agree, would that mean you will take care of Izuku while I rest?" "Well, yeah, Namuri started. "Yes," Nedzu said smiling, "you 2 can look over Izuku after school today. But you need Hisashi and Aizawa to assist since Izuku is already familiar with them." "Great, it's settled then. You will watch over him after school." "Fantastic." Namiri and Tensei stared for a moment at the pure joy their principal had on his face, or was it his sadistic joy that he uses when he gets a chance at fighting the students during the teacher battle exams? Either way, they succeeded in getting to have the cute child all to themselves. "Mwahaha, we won't let you down, sir." Tensei started before exiting the office with Namiri next to him. Nedzu smiled as he could already guess what was going to happen when they would look over his little angel. "Oh, this is going to be fun," Nedzu said, smiling at Izuku, which gladly earned him a smile back. "I can't believe you talked us into this," Aizawa blankly said as he, Hizashi, Namiri, and Tensei headed to Nedzu's house. Apparently, after offering one of their houses for the babysitting, Nedzu refused and offered up his own since Izuku was more familiar with the layout. "It was less talking and more dragging us into their own scheme," Hizashi muttered to Aizawa as they followed behind the obviously too happy of a pair. They arrived at the door, about to knock when it opened to Nedzu holding Izuku. Nedzu had an overnight bag held in his right arm with Izuku in his left. Nedzu handed Izuku to Tensei before waving his little paw goodbye at Izuku. "I'll be back soon, my little mouse," Nedzu whispered to the curly-haired child before he turned to his students. "I have all the materials inside. There is a list with his schedule and where things are located. I left some money for you four to get pizza. If there is an emergency, don't call me, I know what will happen before it does. There are several instructions for each task, no problems. You four have fun. Stay out of my room, I will know if there was any attempt to cross into it," Nedzu explained before walking off toward the elevator. When Hizashi was watching his principal walk down the hall, he noticed his different attire. Instead of a suit and tie, he had on a rather casual white shirt with black jeans. No, wait, those were still his dress pants. Curious, Hizashi called out to Nedzu, "Hey, what are you doing while we watch Izuku? Are you going to go watch a movie or something?" "Oh goodness no. I'm going to find the road to El Dorado." "What on earth do you think I'm doing?" "I'm going to sleep," Nedzu said over his shoulder before turning the corner toward the elevator. The four were stunned at his response before looking down at the child they were supposed to look after for what seemed like overnight. Thank God they had nothing planned and for the fact that tomorrow they were off of school. The four pairs of eyes looked down at the small, smiling child. "This will be so much fun." After about 2 hours of watching Disney movies and eating pizza, Aizawa decided to check certain tasks off the checklist. Let's see, Izuku has already had his bottle. He already had a bath, a diaper change, and his meal of mashed baby foods. We already had dinner, so let's clean up before getting ready for our next task, Aizawa stated, already picking up the empty pizza boxes and throwing them in the trash. His friends followed his actions since Izuku was distracted by Cinderella. They all went to the kitchen as Izuku bounced happily upon seeing the mice fix up Cinderella's dress. He was wearing a soft blue onesie with an embroidered koi fish on his chest. In his hands was a small sloth plushie that Izuku hugged tightly to himself as the pink dress was being made by the army of kind mice. Okay, our last thing is getting Izuku ready for bed. He said that we might need to play with him for a little while before Izuku either gets tired from loss of energy or bored, Aizawa said, looking at his friends. That seems simple enough, Namiri said as she cracked her knuckles. Aizawa looked back at the paper, seeming to notice a little note Nedzu made in red pen. He looked at the note and paled. Remember not to leave Izuku alone for even the tiniest of time. He is in his crawling phase and seemingly loves to hide. I think it happened when I showed him that one Disney movie with the mice making that dress. It seems he loves to pretend to be one of the mice, which is adorable when you think about it, but not when he disappears. Aizawa immediately rushed over to the couch in the living room, leaving his confused friends behind. The three friends heard an angry shout, "Son of a biscuit!" and rushed over to find an annoyed Aizawa and an empty couch. The three friends were freaked out as Aizawa remained the leader. You know the leader, supposed to remain calm in these kinds of situations. Find Izuku before we get killed, Aizawa yelled at them. Aizawa searched the living room, Hizashi checked Izuku's bedroom, Tensei checked out the two bathrooms, and Namiri checked the kitchen. There was no sign of him. He has got to be around here somewhere. Check the lists and see if he said anything about where Izuku likes to hide or something like that, Namiri said frantically as she pointed to Tensei to check the lists that Nedzu left behind. There is nothing about his favorite place to hide. It just says his favorite food and toy, and he already took his favorite stuffed animal with him. There is no way to bait him out. Even if we got the food, he will still be full from earlier, Tensei answered with the list clutched in his hand. The only place we haven't checked is Nedzu's room, but it is still locked, so there is no way he is in there, Hizashi said, looking scared at the fact they might have lost Izuku. Let's check the rooms again. I'll take Izuku's room, Hisashi will take the kitchen, Namiri, you look in the bathrooms again, and Tensei will take the living room. Leave no space unchecked. We have to find him before he hurts himself. Aizawa yelled, rushing into Izuku's room. The four friends were filling with more and more dread as they looked in every place they could find. There were no signs he had been in the bathrooms or kitchen at all. And their only trace in the living room of the fact he was there last time they saw him. They were losing hope and gaining fear as they thought that maybe they would have to check Nedzu's room. I found him, Aizawa said as he looked inside Izuku's closet. Izuku's closet was open, but no one checked inside to see that Izuku had crawled his way to the back of the closet where there was a pile of soft blankets. Izuku had crawled from the living room to his own bedroom to go to sleep. Aizawa smiled at the headache-inducing baby as he softly breathed in a deep slumber. Aizawa picked him up gently before carrying him to his crib. Thankfully, Izuku didn't wake up. The three other teenagers appeared at the door, saw Izuku sleeping, and fell to the ground exhausted. I haven't had a scare like that since, ever, actually, Tensei breathed, lying on the ground, looking up at the painted ceiling with glow-in-the-dark stars. Yeah. Namiri and Hisashi agreed as they yawned. I'm going to keep an eye on Izuku while he sleeps. Aizawa whispered slowly as he slumped down in the padded rocking chair overlooking the crib. It was a bit small with his tall figure, but he made it work. His head resting against his shoulder as sleep overtook him. Nedzu smiled at the sight before him with a well-rested mind. The four teenagers had passed out from the overexertion of chasing Izuku around the house. Their bodies were all around the crib, so Nedzu made sure to step carefully as he walked toward Izuku. Izuku was wide awake, so when he saw his papa he reached out his hands toward him. He smiled and took the child from the crib before carefully moving around the bodies once again. He paused at the door. Sleep tight, children, Nedzu said, smiling at the four passed-out teenagers before exiting Izuku's room with a giggling Izuku slightly bouncing in his arm. I wonder how long it will take them to notice that Izuku's closet has a mini passageway to my room. Nedzu thought with a smiling Izuku staring up at him. He tickled Izuku's belly, making him giggle up at Nedzu with bright eyes. Nedzu was to attend a meeting with all the principals of the hero school in Japan in less than a day. Normally, he would just go to the meeting without a second thought, but since he had Izuku to take care of, all his normal plans and schedules had gone out the window to care for his little mouse. Which was fitting because he dressed Izuku in a white mouse onesie with pink socks today. He loved the fact he could dress up his son in any onesie he wanted to. Maybe he would choose a small tuxedo next time so they could have matching formal wear. Nedzu had embraced the crawling stage by giving him that onesie. And now after some time, Izuku had let up on his crawling adventures to just crawl over to his toys. The issue was that Izuku has started teething recently. When he says recently, he means that morning, which means that he has to be gone for a few days when Izuku's teething stage has just begun, which means he had to get a nanny or four for a few days until he came back. He was sure he could bend the rules a little bit, as long as the four nannies did their schoolwork while they were away from school. Nedzu needed to remind himself to buy some futons so they didn't sleep on the floor again. Izuku babbled from his floor crib with a cold teething toy in his mouth. Nedzu smiled down at him. Hello little mouse, Papa is going to have to go away soon, but don't worry. Your nannies will take good care of you, especially since I'm in charge of whether they get expelled or not. Izuku giggled. Yes, yes. Now, it's time to make a list for them to follow to heart this time, and a grocery list to make sure they don't raid my special snacks. I can't believe Nedzu was letting us out of school for a few days just to take care of Izuku. Hisashi yelled at his friends, pumped at the chance. Small bags of clothes and schoolwork adorned his arms as well as his classmates. Seriously? Don't you remember the last time? You know, when we lost Izuku? Aizawa deadpanned as he walked with his friends to Nedzu's room. Lighten up! We found him in the end anyway, didn't we? What's the worst that could happen now? Namiri said as she bumped her arm playfully against Aizawa. Anything worse can happen now. Aizawa grumbled. The three nannies walked to the room with conflicting thoughts in their head. Tensei couldn't make it since he had to take care of Tenya, but he promised to help them with homework and any baby tips as long as they sent him cute pictures of Izuku with Nedzu's permission. The trio's parents agreed to the 3-day weekend babysitting sleepover since they knew it would teach them responsibility from taking care of a baby, and they were still going to do their homework. Nedzu came through the door when they were still a few feet from it. His face was less tired, but more sad than last time the teens watched over Izuku. He held his son close. "See you soon, my little mouse. I'll be back before you know it." Izuku babbled in his little mouse onesie. Nedzu handed Izuku to Aizawa carefully. "Everything you need should be in there. I have $20 a day for your food budget, anything else will be out of your pocket. There is an updated list on the fridge." I went ahead and purchased some food, just in case. Nedzu waved goodbye to his students. "Just so 3 know, he has begun his teething stage, so have fun." He ended with a more sadistic smile. As Nedzu walked off, Aizawa thought to himself, "Son of butternut squash, not again." Everything was going smoothly, was what a crazy person would say. After Nedzu had left, Aizawa and Hisashi read the list of things to do out loud as Namiri kept Izuku in her arms in the living room. They skimmed through the normal routine before heading to the bottom. P.S. Izuku was very picky when teething. I found out this morning when trying to figure out what he wanted to be his teething toy. I tried multiple methods before landing on his cold toy. He specifically only likes certain things to chew on, this being one of the 3. He will drool and get grumpy. Be prepared, students. Aizawa flipped the page over. PPS. When I was writing this list, I noticed Izuku no longer had his toy. I haven't a clue where it is, but you 3 will be showing at the door any minute, so no time for a backup plan. Thank goodness. I have all the other methods present in the kitchen. Knock yourselves out. Aizawa grumbled and ran his hands over his face. Namiri went to ask what was wrong, and the 3 days of hell started when Izuku opened his mouth in a weak wail. First method, chilled spoon. "Hisashi, what the hell?" Aizawa asked, yelling at the blonde, who held the cold spoon in his hands like a stabbing tool. "I put the spoon in the freezer, was I not supposed to?" Hisashi yelled back at his friend, both parties trying to hear each other over the wails of the infant that was being held by Namiri. Namiri whisper yelled at him, "You were supposed to put it in the fridge, and you weren't supposed to put it in wet. Why not?" Hisashi asked, panic and frustration rising. Aizawa raised an eyebrow before holding up a cold stainless steel spoon covered in ice that gets jagged in some spots. "Gee, I don't know." First method, chilled spoon, failed. Second method, fingers. "Ow, ow, ow, ow." Hisashi whimpered while his newly clean fingers were getting chewed on. "Hey Hisashi, can you feel his little teeth?" Namiri asked, hoping this would work. "Oh, I feel it. And I don't like it," Hisashi replied, grimacing. Izuku started to get irritated with the finger in his mouth, so Izuku grabbed Hisashi's finger and removed it, frowning and whimpering softly. Second method, finger, failed. Third method, teething gel. It was after dinner, and the 3 had already finished up their homework for that day. They even did tomorrow's ahead of time since they had some quiet time at last. "I can't believe Aizawa found the answer," Namiri grumbled as she looked at the peacefully slumbering Izuku laying on top of a napping Aizawa on his futon. Hisashi placed a blanket over the 2 before climbing into his own futon. Turns out, the teething gel really helped Izuku calm down, especially since Aizawa rubbed his gums afterward. Namiri glanced at her phone. The digital clock read 9:30. It took 4 hours for Izuku to fully stop crying. And this was just the first day. Hopefully, the gel would work again tomorrow. Third method, teething gel success. Fourth method, freezing a washcloth. Apparently, the teething gel only worked when Izuku was tired. As soon as Aizawa went to place it on his gums in the morning, Izuku threw the squeeze container on the ground. Not wanting to fight, the others turned to alternatives. Namiri froze one of the washcloths in the fridge and one in the freezer. Both of them were dry. It seemed to work until lunch when Izuku threw the washcloth at Namiri's face when he was done chewing on it. They tried the backup from the freezer, but it was too hard for Izuku. Fourth method, freeze a washcloth, failed. Fifth method, peeled ginger root. This time, they called in the favor of Tensei, who sneaked his phone into class. Tensei texted them that Tenya seemed to like peeled ginger roots to help with his teething problems. So they tried that. Nedzu had a few peeled ginger roots in his cabinet. Hisashi guessed that it must be because he tried one of these methods before, and he prayed to whatever god was close enough that this was one he liked. Nope. Izuku threw the ginger root away as soon as Hisashi placed it in Izuku's mouth. Hisashi's hope was crushed as he watched the ginger root fall to the floor. Fifth method, ginger root, failed. Sixth method, bath and face massage. It was late and close to Izuku's bedtime. Izuku was still trying to teeth by chewing on his onesie while the 3 of them kept a close eye on him while they ate pizza again for dinner. Aizawa was the first to finish and brought Izuku to the bathroom to get him cleaned up for bed. Aizawa succeeded in getting Izuku in a good mood by making bubbles while he bathed him. When he was dressed for bedtime, he gently massaged Izuku's little cheeks like his mother used to do for him when he was young. Izuku was smiling at him while slowly going to sleep. Aizawa placed a small amount of the teething gel on his gums before laying him down in his crib. Before long, Izuku was out cold. Sixth method, bath and face massage success. Aizawa, 2. Hizashi, 0. Namuri, 0. Seventh method, vanilla extract. Bath time, however, was just a short fix. And when Aizawa tried to rub on his little baby cheeks again, Izuku got grumpy. He sighed and wiped the drool from Izuku's mouth using a tissue. Namuri tried a trick that her mother did to her when she was little. She found some vanilla extract and put it on a cotton swab. "Say ah, Izuku," Namuri said cheerfully. Izuku looked at the short white wand strangely, opening his mouth slowly. She coated his gums with the extract before pulling back. Izuku seemed to taste the overwhelming vanilla but otherwise stayed calm. Yay! She finally got a point, but after lunch, he got grumpy again. The vanilla didn't work a second time since Izuku wouldn't allow the cotton swab near his mouth without causing a fuss. Seventh method, vanilla extract failed. Eighth method, cucumber slices. Hizashi thought of a brilliant plan when he was making a sandwich. He pulled out a piece of cucumber for Izuku to chew. Izuku was quite happy with the cool green slice for a while, before he started to wail again. Namuri and Hizashi sighed, resting their heads in their hands while Aizawa picked up Izuku. Aizawa bounced the child lightly, trying to soothe him. Eighth method, cucumber slices failed. Aizawa was bouncing Izuku in his arms as he walked back and forth in his room. He rubbed Izuku's back and hushed him softly. Izuku's cries weren't as loud as before, but he was still worried. He wiped the drool away from Izuku's mouth again, but then he noticed something on Izuku's dresser, something that looked like a teething toy. Son of a butternutter. Ninth method, teething toy successful. Nedzu walked in to see Aizawa on the couch holding a fed, dressed, diaper changed, and happy baby bouncing on his leg. Izuku had his spare teething toy in his mouth. Nedzu wondered how long it took them to find it, but seeing their tired faces he could only imagine it was pretty recently. Namuri and Hizashi said goodbye before they left, very tired. Aizawa stayed behind a few minutes to give Nedzu an update on the methods they tried out and how Izuku has been over the past few days. Izuku clung to his father while chewing on his giraffe teething toy. He wore a mint green and white striped onesie with a bunny tail on his butt. Aizawa smiled, seeing Izuku so at ease before taking his leave as well. It might have been a hard few days, but Izuku was worth it. Nedzu turned to his son once all the teens were gone for the night. He smiled softly at his son's already drooping eyes. He carried him gently to his room and laid him down in his rocking cradle. He slowly rocked him as he hummed a song that they saw in one of those Disney movies Izuku loved so much. Izuku fell asleep slowly with the embrace of his father's warm presence and calm voice. Nedzu was experiencing parental excitement. Izuku has been babbling more often lately. Nedzu thinks that soon Izuku will say his first words. He watched Izuku play on the floor of his office on a fluffy rug. Izuku was dressed in his favorite dinosaur-themed onesie. He was playing with a woven yarn octopus plush that was about the same size as him. They had matching smiles as Izuku rolled on the floor, holding onto 3 of the tentacles. Izuku was getting older, and that both excited and terrified Nedzu. By his deductions, Izuku will say his first words soon. He was beyond happy. His face held a big smile when he walked into the building that morning. He supposed it was an unusual sight since his faculty looked terrified. Screw them, I'm happy. Nedzu thought as he watched his little mouse crawl around with his octopus held in his hands. He knows that Izuku's first words would be soon since a few days ago he had started to mumble and babble different sounds to him. He was about to wake Izuku up this morning only to be greeted with a "Ba" from a wide-awake Izuku in his crib. Nedzu had laughed in joy, and his neighbors were fearing for their lives at the sound. He checked the time on his clock. Oh. It was time for the school announcements. He grabbed the microphone for the intercom and pressed the button to turn it on. I still can't believe it was that difficult for you guys to figure out what Izuku liked when he began teething? Tensei asked. I mean, how? I don't know, dude. But Izuku is picky and Nedzu likes to watch us suffer. Namuri said with her face against her desk. Aizawa elbowed Hisashi to get his attention for the morning announcements. Good afternoon, hero students of Class 1A and 1B, you may now use Training Area Beta again since reconstruction is over. Now Class 1C, General Education. The sound of shuffling paper and Nedzu's amused giggle came over the speaker, and the sound of Izuku's babbling spread through the school. Ba. Pa. Na. Everyone awed at the cuteness of the child's voice, even Yukimura, who was still quite traumatized over the punishment he'd received. The group of four smiled at the noises Izuku was making before Nedzu continued on. That is all for today, Nedzu finished. Have a good afternoon. As he was turning it off, the whole school heard a cute babble of "bae." The group of friends looked back at each other. Let me guess, you all want to go see Izuku during lunch break? Aizawa sighed. The rest of the group nodded in unison. Aizawa didn't want to admit he was excited, but he was. Seeing Izuku was always fun. Nedzu had a feeling that Izuku would say his first words today. Izuku had been babbling a lot since he turned off the intercom while he was playing with his toys. Nedzu had a smile on his face while doing some paperwork. Unfortunately, Nedzu has to go to a quick meeting with the faculty during lunch break. Apparently, a child during the meeting was distracting and unprofessional. Nedzu had to make a tough decision and exclude Izuku from the next meeting lest his child distract from the topics at hand. Nedzu checked the cameras to see his four favorite babysitters making their way toward his office. Ooh, perfect timing. The four teenagers hesitantly entered Nedzu's office. Izuku looked up at the door and smiled. He started to babble and reach out his hands at the four while Nedzu smiled. Hello, students. What a pleasant surprise. Nedzu said as he hopped off his office chair to go greet them at the door. Aizawa already had a suspicion that they would be staying a little longer than anticipated. He narrowed his eyes as Nedzu approached Tensei. Nice to see you. Since you are here, you wouldn't mind watching Izuku during the lunch break while I go to a meeting, right? Great. See you. Nedzu rambled before briskly walking out the door. Aizawa sighed as he rubbed his temples. Great. I should have known this would happen. Izuku seemed to giggle at Aizawa's annoyance with the whole situation. Wonderful. Now Izuku's laughing at my pain. Tensei seemed to be excited about the opportunity to care for Izuku since he missed out last time. Hey, Izuku. How have you been, little guy? Tensei asked, approaching slowly with a smile on his face. He crouched down to look at Izuku, who was smiling behind his octopus toy. I see you got a new toy. It looks so colorful. The three shrugged at the other's brotherly behavior and joined him on the floor. They had about 30 minutes to have fun with little Izuku before Nedzu came back. They pulled out all the stops. Hisashi hummed songs while Namuri made one of his dolls dance along, and Tensei made two toys race against each other with Aizawa as the begrudging judge of who won. Eventually, it was time for the group to head back to class. Alright, little man, Nedzu will be back soon to see you. Namuri said, patting Izuku on the head. Papa. Izuku replied with a bright smile looking back at the four from the picture he was staring at. Did he just dash? Tensei started to ask. Say his first words without Nedzu present? Yes he did, and now our principal is going to kill us from jealousy. Aizawa said fearfully. Oh no. What are we going to do? Namuri worried. Nothing. Nothing. We do nothing. Aizawa replied. What? Hisashi asked with a shocked expression. His first words were Papa. So when he sees Nedzu, he will say Papa again. Nedzu won't know unless he has a camera somewhere in here. But hey, maybe he will be too happy to notice. Aizawa explained. Okay. He is coming down the hall now. Let's say goodbye, and let Nedzu hear his child say his first words. Namuri decided. They all nodded before saying a quick goodbye to Izuku, which was rewarded with a small wave. They exited the room at the same time Nedzu walked in. They said hello and goodbye to their principal before heading to their class. Nedzu waved goodbye to the backs of his students before turning around and closing the door behind him. He walked to his desk while looking at Izuku. He was playing with his zebra plush. Ah, I remember when I got him that toy. Nedzu thought, not paying attention to what was in front of him. His toe hit the desk leg hard. Ow, shit. Nedzu yelled out before clutching his footpaw. Shit. Izuku repeated after his father. I'm a terrible father. Nedzu thought to himself before robotically sitting down at his desk chair. He rested his head on the desk's surface while he listened to Izuku's laughing. Izuku's sound of laughter and clapping did nothing to drown out the feeling of shame that the principal was currently going through. So how do you think Nedzu reacted when Izuku called him Papa? Tensei wondered with excitement in his voice as they went to check on the principal and Izuku at the end of the school day. Oh, I'm sure he was happier than he has ever been, Hisashi replied with a smile on his face before opening the office door. Hey, Principal Nedzu, just checking in dash. The office was quiet except for Izuku's babbling sounds. They looked to their principal to see him sitting lifelessly at his desk. Principal Nedzu? What's wrong? Namuri asked carefully. I'm a terrible father. I made Izuku's first word a curse word. Nedzu bemoaned. What? His first word was a curse word? But his first word was dash? Hisashi started before Aizawa slapped a hand over his mouth again. What? A moment of silence followed. Well, Principal Nedzu, Izuku's actual first words were dash, Aizawa explained to Nedzu's oddly calm smiling face. Papa. Izuku called, smiling when he got his father's attention. Clapping, he repeated, Papa. Papa. Nedzu smiled softly at the sight of his little child calling out to him. Oh, my precious little mouse, Nedzu whispered before taking Izuku up into his arms. Yeah. We didn't tell you because we figured that Izuku would say it as soon as you come back. But it appears it didn't happen like the way we thought it would. So we all apologize, Tensei responded before the four bowed in apology. Oh. Thank goodness. That means I have a video of it. Nedzu replied happily before tickling Izuku on his tummy. What do you mean? Do you have cameras in your office? Hisashi asked with a sweat bead rolling down his forehead. Oh please, I have cameras all over the school in every room, complete with different angles and full audio. Nedzu responded casually, all his attention on his son. Except for more private areas such as the restrooms, of course. Man, that is unnerving, the four thought to themselves. A happy family of two. Well, 6 if you counted the honorary aunts and uncles, Nedzu thought. Nedzu realized that Izuku doesn't really have any friends his own age. The only friends he has are his stuffed animals and his family. So, Nedzu, the great father that he is, decides that it is time for Izuku to make a friend his own age. It didn't take much deliberation to decide that Tensei's younger brother, Tenya, would be perfect. Izuku was already familiar with Tensei, and apparently, Tenya didn't have many friends his own age either. Nedzu looked over to Izuku, who was wearing a short-sleeved black shirt with red shorts. The black shirt had a design of one of the top 10 heroes at that moment. And on his feet were bright white shoes that lit up every time he took a step. The shoes were Izuku's favorite thing at the moment since he couldn't stop staring down at them, stomping his feet to cause them to light up again. Nedzu looked over to Izuku. He hopes the playdate this weekend goes smoothly. Izuku's first playdate? Hell yeah, I'll be there, Namuri stated, downing her drink in one go. Alright, Tensei chuckled. Hey, do you guys want to come too? We can't, Hisashi grumbled, staring dejectedly down at the table. Aizawa explained, we have to work on a project on hero history. We are supposed to do research on heroes from about 100 years ago or so that made an impact on society in some way. But we have to get all our sources this weekend, and it is ridiculously hard to find a hero that someone else in the class isn't already doing. Hisashi groaned with his face now smushed against the table. Relax, Hisashi, Aizawa said. He turns his attention to the other two. I want as many pictures and videos of Izuku as you can get. Roger that, Namuri saluted. Sunday arrived fast. Aizawa and Yamada were away at a public library scouring the computers and books desperately searching for a hero to do their report on. Meanwhile, Namuri was led into Nedzu's apartment with Tensei and his brother right behind her. Nedzu guided the three inside where they saw Izuku laying on the floor in the living room with a coloring book set in front of him. What are doing, bud? Namuri asked, crouching down beside Izuku. Color. Izuku replied loudly, showing the bright colors that the marker had left all over his hands. Namuri giggled at the display, and Tenya peeked out from behind his older brother's legs. Izuku's attention drifted to Tenya, and reached out his hand and waved at the other boy. Tenya's eyes brightened and he waved back at the other boy. Tensei noticed this and introduced the two. Tenya, this is Izuku. Izuku, this is my little brother Tenya. Hi, Izuku greeted. Hello, Tenya replied quietly while his brother guided him to Izuku. Tenya reached out his hand towards the other boy for a handshake before Izuku pulled him into a hug. Tenya froze up momentarily before he relaxed into the hug. Namuri was taking a video of the whole thing. Aizawa and Yamada are going to be so jealous. I know, right? Tensei whispered back to her. Izuku was wearing his favorite light-up shoes which he was now showing to Tenya excitedly. Tensei backed off, allowing the two to sit together as Izuku showed Tenya his coloring book and markers. Tenya picked up a blue marker and started to draw on one page as Izuku scribbled on the other. Namuri sat on the couch to watch the television while the two kids colored. Tensei sat on the other side of the couch, watching them draw calmly while Nedzu worked on school-related stuff for tomorrow behind them. It wasn't long before Tensei turned his attention to the television while Izuku continued coloring with Tenya. Izuku wanted to show Tenya his favorite stuffed octopus toy. He looked around to see where he left it, finding it laying over the chair next to the couch. Be back, Izuku whispered to Tenya, who looked confused. Izuku started to crawl towards his toy before realizing that his toy was laying on top of the chair, out of his reach. He furrowed his brow, trying to reach for one of the knitted tentacles. Namuri glanced over to Izuku. Tensei, look. Tensei looked to where Namuri pointed to see Izuku trying to stand up. Namuri quickly took out her phone to start recording a video while Nedzu came around the couch to get a closer look. The three didn't dare to stop Izuku as he started to stand up on his little legs. Come on, squirt, Tensei encouraged while Tenya watched his friend. Izuku used the chair as something to lean on while he grabbed his toy from the top of the chair. He stumbled a bit when he took his hand from the chair. Nedzu walked around the couch to the other side to encourage Izuku. Come here, little mouse, Nedzu called, making grabby hands towards his child. Papa, Izuku mumbled as one of his arms gripped his toy. He slowly and unsteadily made his way to Nedzu before finally collapsing into a hug. I got all of it on camera, Namuri cheered while Tensei looked emotional. So did I, Nedzu stated proudly. But please send me that video since your point of view is closer than the security cameras in my house. Cameras? Oh yes, I got them installed shortly after everyone stayed overnight to babysit, Nedzu added, which made the two friends look at each other in slight fear. How much does he see? How much does he know? The playdate yesterday was adorable. And it was so cute when Izuku called Tenya Tenchan and then Tenya called him Izuchan, Tenya said. Hizashi groaned into his hands. I can't believe we missed Izuku's first steps. Show. Why couldn't we be there? We didn't want to fail our project, Aizawa sighed. Hizashi hadn't stopped complaining since Namuri had sent the video of Izuku walking. Speaking of, thank you for sending the video of him walking to us. No problem, Namuri smiled, leaning back in her chair. Tensei continued to eat his fruit salad in silence while Hizashi was still talking about how he wished he had been there in person to witness the event. It was so cute. Hizashi sobbed dramatically, his little bitty baby arms were wrapped around his little toy, and those little bitty legs were. Hizashi pauses before crying out, why? Why weren't we there? Aizawa cancelled his quirk just in time so that they all didn't bleed from the ears. Nedzu was feeling sentimental, and honestly, who could blame him? It had been a whole year since he adopted Izuku into his life and accepted his role as a parent to a human baby. Well, closer to 10 months, since he found him when he was 2 months old. Ever since adopting Izuku, Nedzu's life has gotten more tiring, but far happier. Before Izuku, life felt empty and boring. The only upside was being the principal of UA. And even then he was still criticized for even the smallest slip up. But when Izuku came into his life, he started to see the bright side of things. The world made of black and white grew into color each and every day. The hatred he felt all his life lessened when he heard Izuku laugh or saw him smile. That's why he didn't really want to see Izuku get older, but he knew it was a part of life. Instead of trying to hold back Izuku from growing up, like the humans used to do to him, he wanted to see him grow. He wanted to see Izuku become his own person. But right now, he has a birthday party to plan for Friday. It will be interesting to see what kind of gifts people give Izuku. Now Izuku, we have to wait for the perfect temperature of the tea, Nedzu explained to the curious almost 1-year-old holding his cup of imaginary tea. Tea, Izuku drawled as he held onto his cup with both hands, staring intensely into the bottom of the cup. Yes, and then we sip, Nedzu finished off with an exaggerated sip to his tea. Izuku followed suit with an equally loud slurp to his empty cup. He giggled and Nedzu smiled softly at the cheerful child. I wouldn't trade my life as a father for anything. What the heck do we get for Izuku? Hisashi asked as the small group walked through the mall. Tensei had Tenya riding on his shoulder. Meanwhile, Namiri and Aizawa were looking at the shop windows they passed. It would be hard to find a gift for Izuku due to how much Nedzu spoiled the kid. The best choice would be something more sentimental, opposed to just a cool plushie that we can buy anywhere. Aizawa explained, looking around for anything that would be good for Izuku. Namiri's eyes brightened when her eyes locked in a certain shop. I got it. I can make my own stuffed animal. She took off and the others followed her inside the Build-A-Bear. Namiri picked a white fluffy bear and a white mouse plush. She asked a worker to try to combine the two skins into one plush. They told her to come back at the end of the shopping trip since the custom order would take a while. Hisashi headed down the hall and spotted something in the window of an antique thrift shop. He ran straight inside, leaving his other two friends to follow him. He ran up to the worker behind the register for the music box in the window. The worker agreed and got it down from the display. I used to have a little music box when I was little, so I want Izuku to have the same comfort I had when I was young, Hisashi explained while the worker retrieved the music box from its spot. After that was done, Hisashi was carrying the music box in a doubled-up paper bag. Tensei led the way since he wanted to check a specific shop, speeding up when he saw it further down. The others hurried after him. Tensei speedwalked inside a bicycle shop and headed towards the kids section. Once there, he spotted a bright cherry red tricycle with a woven basket and tiny bell attached to the front. I learned to ride when I was very young, and I loved the freedom of riding around. I hope Izuku will like it, Tensei explained. Once the trike had been purchased and the group had gone back to walking aimlessly around the mall, Tensei asked his little brother what he wanted to get for Izuku. Tenya thought for a moment before saying, colors. Colors? Oh, you mean like coloring books and stuff? Tensei asked, receiving a nod from his brother. Okay. The three headed to the general store to buy a coloring book and crayons. They were planning on simply getting a normal large pack of crayons, but then Tenya headed towards a large art kit containing crayons, markers, colored pencils, watercolors, and brushes. Colors! Tenya exclaimed while trying to pick up the large blue kit. The three teens shrugged, picking up the art kit before heading to the cash register to check out. They also got a pro-hero themed coloring book that they hadn't seen Nedzu get Izuku yet. They walked out and met Namiri, who had the custom plush in a large brown paper bag. Aizawa was the only one left who still needed to get a gift for Izuku. A few minutes of searching later, he spotted the perfect gift in the window of a shop. Oh, Izuku would love that. It was the day of Izuku's birthday party. Nedzu hosted it at his apartment since he wanted it to be a private party with only Izuku's close family, Nedzu, Aizawa, Hisashi, Namiri, Tensei, and his first friend, Tenya. Izuku was dressed for the occasion in a birthday-themed onesie and a party hat on the top of his head surrounded by his curly green hair. The party started with an animated movie before cutting the cake Nedzu had made ahead of time. Nedzu was delighted that it turned out so well. It was a small, two-layer cake covered in delicious white buttercream. The top had the message "Happy Birthday Izuku" written in thin green icing. All kinds of sprinkles were all around the cake. One layer was vanilla and the other was chocolate. Aizawa, Hisashi, and Nedzu chose the vanilla cake on top while Namiri, Tensei, Tenya, and Izuku ate from the bigger chocolate layer on the bottom. After the cake, everyone sat down and talked to each other while their stomachs settled. About half an hour later, it was time for presents. Yay! Izuku said happily as Nedzu rounded up the gifts. Who wants to go first? Nedzu asked, prompting Namiri to raise her hand. I'll go. Namiri answered while picking up her present. I think Izuku will love this. Oh really? Nedzu asked. Yep. Namiri said, placing the bag in front of Izuku. Izuku ripped open the paper to see an imitation of his father in plush form. Papa! Izuku cried out before hugging the plush to his chest. The white bear mouse hybrid had on a white dress shirt, black pants, a pair of black shoes, a black vest, and a glossy red bow tie. Nedzu chuckled at the small toy that looked like him, sort of. Thank you! Izuku exclaimed, muffled by the plush's soft fur. I'll go next. Hisashi said as he placed a soft brown bag in front of Izuku. Izuku placed the plush to the side before ripping open the paper. Pretty, Izuku murmured, looking at the music box. It had a light mint green outside with a carnation pink rim. Hisashi went ahead and turned the little crank. The soft song began to play as the music box opened to show a ballerina dancing in the center. Izuku giggled at the dancer while swaying to the music. I think he likes it, Hisashi whispered to his friends. Thank you, Izuku mumbled as he focused on the ballerina doing her dance as the lid slowly shut. Tensei stood and wheeled over the tricycle. Izuku's eyes widened in curiosity, toddling over to investigate it. This is a lovely tricycle, Nedzu commended. I hope Izuku likes it, Tensei responded. He does. Thank you, Tensei. He will love it when he is old enough to ride it. Nedzu thanked. Tensei's cheeks reddened in embarrassment, realizing that Izuku probably won't use the bike until a few years later. Tenya went next with his gift, and Izuku loved it because of the many colors. Nedzu smiled as Izuku started to make a mess with the markers on the first page of his new coloring book. He carefully took the markers away for Aizawa to give Izuku his gift. Problem child, I think you would like this since it is comfortable and makes us spot you easily, Aizawa said before handing Izuku's gift to him, which he proudly ripped open. Izuku was now holding a pink sleeping bag with a soft pink lining on the inside. Izuku smiled before changing. Yay, yay, yay. He started to climb inside with his plush bear with the help of Aizawa. Thank you, Izuku mumbled from beneath all the comfy material. Nedzu laughed at seeing his little boy having fun with his family surrounding him. Now it was Nedzu's turn to give Izuku his last gift. He laughed maniacally before lifting a huge bag from behind the couch. He gently dumped the contents onto the ground to show everyone what he bought: movies. A whole collection of movies ranging from animation to teen comedies. Studio Ghibli, Pixar, DreamWorks, and Disney movies took up the majority. But Aizawa saw Mean Girls and Legally Blonde in the pile. What is up with these? Aizawa asked at the two movies that stuck out from the cartoon movies. He needs to be cultured, Nedzu responded, which got him laughs from 3 of the teens in the room. Tenya looked confused while Aizawa looked on with a smile. Izuku looked out from his sleeping bag to see his family having fun with each other. Nedzu looked at him to receive a smile from his little mouse. I think he knows how much his family loves him. I know that Izuku's family will grow in the future. Nedzu thought. It was family day today. Everyone's family was able to come to UA to spend some time with their child at the school campus. And it was even more exciting for the third years that were graduating soon. It was only a short time before the third years would start their own careers, including the 4 honorary aunt and uncles of the principal's son. Hisashi's parents were chatting with Namiri's parents while Tensei's family were off to the side with Tenya. Unfortunately, Aizawa's parents couldn't really make it because of their work, but his mother informed him to take lots of pictures for her. Hisashi was busy with Tensei as they were checking up on Tenya, who was excited to show Izuku his new puzzle book. Namiri was pulled into a conversation with her parents to talk more about her social life to make sure no one was bringing her down. They approved of her friends, but her father was protective over her and didn't want anyone to hurt his little girl. Aizawa was hanging out in the principal's office, watching as Izuku crawled around fast on the floor. He watched as Izuku stood up after picking up one of his toys before running to him to show it off. Ah, it has been a while since I've seen Mr. Sloth, Aizawa commented, ruffling Izuku's hair. Izuku laughed, showing off the little teeth inside his mouth. He smiled as he thought back to the video Namiri had sent them with Izuku's first steps. Hisashi is still bitter that he wasn't there to see it. But it was a happy memory nonetheless that they were all going to remember fondly, especially since Nedzu had it all recorded from the security cameras in his office as well as Namiri's video. He thinks she even took some pictures. Since then Izuku has been walking a little better each day. He wonders if Izuku will just disappear from sight if he takes his eyes off of him. It felt like just yesterday he was saying his first words and now he is walking around. Ah, Aizawa was getting all sentimental. He looked down at the sloth toy as the office seems to grow quiet around him. The office door opened slightly to reveal his 3 friends without their parents. Namiri greeted, our parents all met each other and are chatting up a storm right now outside the cafeteria. How's it hanging with little Izuku? Everything is good for once. He has been playing with his toys since I got here, Aizawa explained looking at his friends. Well, where is he? Tensei asked, receiving a confused look from Aizawa. What do you mean? He's right there, Aizawa said as he pointed to where he last saw Izuku. But his finger showed nothing but empty space and a forgotten toy lying on the ground. Where did he go? Hizashi called out loudly in confusion. The friends hurriedly looked around the office to see no sign of the green-haired boy, not behind the desk, not next to his toys, not next to the wide-open door. Son of a honey bun. Aizawa yelled in frustration at seeing where Izuku might have gone. Why did you leave the door open? I thought I did. Namiri replied, I didn't close it all the way, but I didn't leave it wide open like that. Oh dear, this is bad, Tensei said after he walked up to the empty doorway. I don't see him in the hallway. Where did he walk off to? Okay, Hizashi, go find where Nedzu is and see if Izuku is just trying to find him. Distract him if necessary. I'm going to head down the rooms of this hallway and stay in this area, so if he comes back I'll be here. Namiri, you go walk around downstairs and see if you can find him anywhere. Tensei, head down to the parents and see if he shows up anywhere. Aizawa broke it down. The friends nodded in agreement before taking their job positions. Meanwhile, Izuku smiled from his favorite hiding spot in the office. He thinks it will be an exciting game of hide and seek. Izuku hid his giggle as he silently walked off toward where he heard other children. They must be far away, but he will find them and make friends. Hello, Nedzu greeted his student as Hizashi sped walked towards where he was. Ah. Hi. How are you doing? Is running an event like this calming or stressing? Hizashi asked, hoping to get Nedzu on a big tangent of some kind. Whatever do you mean? I like to have these events to show the extent of what UA has to offer. This event allows the family of students to visit and explore the school that their child is attending with little restrictions. It is basically like a tour through the school with the family able to talk to anyone and just have fun, Nedzu explained. Ah, is this because you wish to pursue into becoming an entertainer as well? Yep. Yeah. I wanted to know more about this kind of being a host thing since I want to be a radio DJ. That's the only reason why, Hizashi rambled, trying his best to distract Nedzu. Anyway, is there any advice you can give me? Why, of course. I think I have just the advice you need, but it might be a long explanation, Nedzu informed him. Hizashi waved it off, I have plenty of time. My parents are checking out outside with the Kayama family. Please, tell me everything. You might want to take notes, Nedzu added, leading him to a more open area near the cafeteria. Hizashi silently prayed that they find Izuku fast because he doesn't really know how long this Nedzu lecture is going to last. Well, at least he will get some helpful information about what to do in his future. Nichan. Tenya called out as he saw his brother make his way towards them. Hi, Tenya, Tensei greeted his brother with a friendly smile. Hey, have any of you seen a green-haired kid around Tenya's travel near here? His mom furrowed her brows. Is someone missing? No. I might just think he is playing hide and seek or something with us, Tensei answered back. A game of hiding and seek that we have no idea we are playing. He thought to himself. Tensei looked down at his brother, squatting down to his level. Anyway, I'm just out there looking for him. Do you want to help, Tenya? Izuku was playing hide and seek. Find a friend? Tenya asked with his bright eyes sparkling at the chance to play with his older brother and his first friend. Yep. You want to help your big brother out? Tensei asked, stretching out a hand. Tenya excitedly grabbed his hand and walked with his brother through the outside. He kept his eye open as he slowly walked side by side with his brother. It wasn't long before Tensei picked him up in his arms to avoid dragging his little brother behind him since his pace was a bit faster. Tenya settled in his arms quickly, scoping out the area to find his friend. Tenya spotted a head of green hair behind a bush. Izuku peered over the leaves and brought a finger to his lips. Tenya tilted his head at the action before repeating the action back. Izuku nodded back at him, slowly crawling out of his hiding spot to continue walking back into the school. Friend? Yeah, we are looking for Izuku. Friend went in. Izuku went back inside? Tenya nodded back at his brother because he can't keep a secret from him. Okay, good, Tensei responded back, digging into his pocket to call Namiri. Namiri? Yeah, it's me. Listen, Izuku should be on the first floor right now, more towards the east area of the school. Tenya saw him go in apparently. Yeah. I'm still outside. Alright, sounds good. Guess I can be out here for a little longer. Hey, do you want to play a game? Tensei asked, smiling at his brother while on the inside he was screaming. Namiri headed straight towards where Tensei told her that Izuku would be, surveying the surroundings to spot familiar green curls. She was about to look around the area for the third time when he heard the familiar giggle of Izuku coming from nearby. For a split second, she could see a head of curls heading upstairs. Her eyes widened and tried to follow him, only to find out she lost him in the many people in the hallway passing through. Namiri texted Aizawa that Izuku just got past her and was heading upstairs. She ran her hand down her face. She hopes they find him soon. She was so worried that he might be hurt while he was running around. Or that they would be hurt for losing him in this big school. Izuku stumbled his way inside his father's office to go back into his favorite hiding spot behind his papa's desk. Aizawa walked into the office, noticing how the office door was open slightly more than before, hoping that it wasn't just a coincidence. He was just in the faculty room looking for Izuku for about the 5th time. He had already checked all the rooms on the floor except the office. Aizawa's eyes swept over the room, notching practically nothing out of place since last time he checked. Meanwhile, under Nedzu's desk, Izuku was beginning to feel like he wanted to end the game already, but he was having fun with everyone playing hide and seek with him. Aizawa breathed out heavily, sinking down to sit right in front of Nedzu's desk where Izuku was hiding. He groaned with face in his hands. Where is he? This never would have happened if it weren't for me. If I would have watched him better as I should have, this wouldn't have happened. But now I don't know where he is if he is hurt. I suck at being an uncle for Izuku, he said sadly, looking at the ground. If I can't find one kid, how am I supposed to save people? He thought to himself before glancing out of the corner of his eye to see Izuku peeking over the corner of Nedzu's desk. Izuku, Aizawa sighed in relief. No! Izuku called out from his spot. No, sad. Sorry. Aizawa got wrapped up in a hug by Izuku, who looked on the verge of tears. Izuku? Are you okay? Did you get hurt? I'm okay. Sorry, Izuku mumbled into his chest. Aizawa rubbed his curls. Next time you want to play hide and seek, let all of us know first. We were all worried about you. Izuku tightened his grip on Aizawa's school jacket while Namiri showed up at the office door to the scene before them. She was a bit worried since Aizawa hadn't responded in text yet. Hizashi appeared next with a tired look in his eyes and a notebook filled with helpful advice from Nedzu. They all joined in on the hug in the ground of the office and listened to Izuku apologize for making them worried. They were all just happy that Izuku was safe now, and a little tired from the wild goose chase. Izuku sniffled softly as they all reassured him that they weren't mad, only worried. Soon, the 4 joined the pair of brothers playing catch. Aizu-chan. Hi, Ten-chan. You guys, want to grab something to eat since family day is almost over? Yes, Hizashi and Namiri said in a tired unison. Aizawa watched Izuku play with Tenya as the 4 friends ate with their parents. Tenya was happily showing Izuku his new book while the 2 snacked on sliced apples. He made sure to never take his eyes off of him for too long. They were a family after all. Nedzu sighed as he tucked Izuku goodnight. You okay, Izuku? You have been looking quite down. Was it because of what happened today? Izuku nodded sadly to his dad from under his comfy blanket. Well, now cheer up. They were just worried for you, that means they care an awful lot about you. Nedzu explained while fixing up his pillows. Really? Izuku perked up at hearing that maybe they didn't hate him because of the stunt he pulled. He was really worried that he might not play with them again. Yes, really. I consider them a part of your family. No matter if they are related to you or not. They will genuinely care for you and love you as I do. Nedzu kindly replied with a soft smile. Okay. Love you, Papa. Izuku tiredly retorted as his eyes drooped. Love you too, little mouse. Good night. Nedzu said, placing a small kiss on his forehead before heading out of the room. He is growing up so fast. Nedzu thought as he looked back at his son's room. Hopefully, he doesn't grow up too fast. And that is the end of this video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.